I want to ask you something before I even begin this story. Have you ever experienced a moment so unexpected, so small on the surface, yet powerful enough to change the way you saw yourself? That's what happened to me. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even supposed to happen. But it did. And it's been living rent-free in my mind ever since. My name is Julia, I'm 58 years old, and if you think you already know what kind of story this is, let me stop you right there. I am not a bored housewife looking for trouble. I've had a good life, a rich life. Marriage, children, milestones, the beautiful chaos of building a family. My husband, David, and I have been married for over 3 decades. He's steady, reliable, a man who's given me both comfort and companionship. I love him. I truly do. But love doesn't mean life is without cracks. Sometimes the quiet moments, the ones we don't pay attention to, hold the biggest truths. It all started when David left for his annual fishing trip. He's been going with the same group of men for years, and I never minded. If anything, I looked forward to the little break. My time to enjoy silence, catch up on books, maybe take long walks and have the house all to myself. I thought this year would be no different. But then there was Ethan. Ethan has been part of our story from the very beginning. He was David's best friend long before I came into the picture. In fact, he's the one who introduced us all those years ago. Over time, he became part of the fabric of our family life, holidays, barbecues, birthdays. Always there, always familiar. He wasn't just David's friend, he was ours. So when I heard the knock on the door that afternoon, I wasn't surprised to see him standing there. What surprised me was how I felt. He looked the same as always, casual jeans, sleeves rolled up, that boyish grin that somehow hadn't faded even as we all aged. But there was something different in the way he looked at me that day. Something I couldn't name right away. "Hey, Julia," he said easily. "Thought I'd stop by, just checking in since David's away." It wasn't unusual. Ethan had done that before. I welcomed him in, poured us some iced tea, and we sat at the kitchen table like we'd done countless times before. But this time, the air felt charged. Like there was an invisible current running between us. We talked about ordinary things, the weather, the kids, what books I was reading. But every once in a while, our eyes would meet. And when they did, it was like the world slowed down just a fraction too much. His gaze lingered. His voice softened. And I found myself noticing things I hadn't before, the way his forearms flexed when he lifted his glass, the way his laugh reached his eyes. Silly things, details I shouldn't have been paying attention to, but couldn't seem to ignore. Then came the moment that shifted everything. He looked at me quietly, his voice low, almost careful. "Julia, is everything really okay? You seem different lately." My throat tightened. I wanted to say yes, of course I was fine. That my life was solid, steady, predictable. But instead, all I could manage was a whisper. "I'm fine." And even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Because something inside me had shifted. He stood up, walked to the window, his back to me for a moment. Then he turned. And in his eyes was something raw, unguarded. "Do you ever wonder," he asked softly, "what might have been if life had gone just a little differently?" My heart pounded. Because in that instant, I knew exactly what he meant. Ethan wasn't just asking about the past. He was daring to touch on the unspoken thread that had always existed between us, but that neither of us had ever named. I didn't answer him. I couldn't. Instead, I sat frozen, my hands clenched in my lap, my chest tight with emotions I didn't fully understand. He didn't push me. He just nodded, like he already knew. When David came home days later, life went back to normal. The rhythms of marriage picked up right where they'd left off. But inside, I wasn't the same. That single moment with Ethan haunted me. His words echoed in the spaces between chores, in the quiet moments before bed, even when I was lying beside my husband. Weeks passed. And then one night, long after David had fallen asleep, the phone rang. It was Ethan. "Hey," he said, his voice light, but carrying something heavier underneath. "You up?" "Yeah," I answered cautiously. "I'm nearby," he said. "Thought I'd stop by. If you're alone." I hesitated. My heart pounded. And then I heard myself say the words I still don't know how to explain: I am. Minutes later, he was at my door. This time, we didn't sit at the kitchen table. We sat on the couch, closer than before. Close enough that I could feel the heat of his presence, close enough that silence suddenly felt full, too full. He turned to me, his voice low, steady. I haven't stopped thinking about that day. About what we said. I swallowed hard. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, I admitted, my honesty surprising even me. He reached for my hand. Slowly, carefully. And I didn't pull away. We just sat there, our hands touching, the silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. It wasn't awkward. It was alive, thrumming with everything we weren't saying. And yet, there was no kiss. No confession. No betrayal. Not that night. What there was honesty. Not about him. About me. That moment forced me to face something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. That I was more than just a wife, more than just a mother. That I still longed to feel seen, noticed, alive. When Ethan finally left that night, the air in the room still felt charged, but my heart felt strangely clear. Nothing dramatic had happened, but everything had changed. Because now I knew something about myself that I couldn't know. Life returned to its patterns. Ethan and I didn't cross paths in the same way after that. But that afternoon, and that night, they became part of me. Not as shame, not as regret, but as a reminder. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or dramatic choices. Sometimes it's about the quiet truths we finally allow ourselves to admit. And in that honesty, I found a freedom I didn't know I needed.